At one point, Travis Browne looked like the future of the UFC heavyweight division. He was 6'7", knockout power, freakish athleticism. He was starching contenders, flipping off gravity with flying knees, and front-kicking dudes into the shadow realm. Commentators were calling him the next big thing. Dana White had that "I found my new golden boy" glimmer in his eye.
See, Travis Browne was one of those guys, right before I would say the Bigfoot fight. Even the Bigfoot fight, he got injured. He blew his hamstring or something weird happened to him in that fight. Guy looked like he was going to be a world champion.
The path to a title shot seemed like a formality. Then, poof, gone. Not literally overnight, but almost as if someone yanked his controller out mid-fight. The rise was fast, the fall was even faster. And the crash? Man, it was rough. In this video, you will see the full story, the peak, the collapse, the chaos. How Travis Browne went from wrecking legends to being remembered for memes and corner drama. So let's talk about it. You know how every UFC hype reel these days is packed with kids who started training jiu-jitsu at age 6, kickboxed through puberty, and were slapping arm bars on stuffed animals before they could ride a bike? Yeah, Travis Browne was not that guy. Born and raised in Hawaii, Browne was not a dojo kid. He didn't come from some legendary fight lineage. His early life was mostly basketball and a whole lot of regular life stuff. In fact, up until the age of 26, Travis had never thrown a proper punch in a gym. Now think about that. The man who would later knock out top-tier heavyweights with spinning elbows had never taken a martial arts class before most fighters are already turning pro. At 27, most prospects are deep into their second or even third pro contract. Browne was just strapping on gloves for his first amateur fight. And yet, 3 years later, he was walking into the UFC cage with a contract in hand. That kind of trajectory is nearly impossible, and yet that's exactly what made Travis Browne such a curiosity. He didn't follow the typical path. He jumped the queue with raw ability, freakish physical gifts, and a work ethic that turned potential into performance. Standing at 6'7" with a 79-inch reach, Browne wasn't just tall. He was built like a billboard with a gas tank. Long limbs, fast-twitch muscles, and a frame that could carry power without dragging him down. While most heavyweights lumber, Browne moved, light on his feet, explosive in transition. You'd watch him and wonder if someone had installed cheat codes. And it wasn't just eye test stuff. Coaches would talk about how natural he was. Training footage showed a guy bouncing on his toes like a welterweight, throwing combinations that didn't look like they belonged to a man that size. Sparring partners were rattled. He wasn't just physically imposing, he was creative, experimental, a guy who didn't care if a move was traditional or textbook. If it worked, he'd use it. And when he entered the UFC, he made noise right away. His debut was against James McSweeney, a kickboxer with some real credentials. Browne walked him down, swarmed him with pressure, and finished the fight with violent ground and pound in the first round. UFC brass took notice. Next, Stefan Struve. Struve was supposed to be the tall, gangly problem, but Travis made him look like a warm-up. One Superman punch later and lights out. Struve dropped like a Jenga tower and Browne didn't even break a sweat. Czech Congo was next. A step up, a real test. But the fight didn't end clean. Browne was deducted a point in the third round for repeatedly grabbing Congo's shorts, something that the ref had warned him about. That call changed everything. What could have been a close win turned into a controversial draw. But you could see it. The tools were there. The jab, the movement, the unpredictability. Even Joe Rogan couldn't help himself. He started hyping Browne as the new breed of heavyweight. The next level athlete who could finally bring speed, size, and violence together in one terrifying package. Browne's name was buzzing, fast. The UFC hadn't had many heavyweights who moved like that. Sure, there were big hitters, guys like Shane Carwin or Roy Nelson, but they didn't have the fluidity, the agility, the "I might throw a spinning wheel kick just because I feel like it" energy that Travis Browne brought. He was raw, no doubt, still learning on the job, but that was part of the appeal. This was a guy who came from nowhere, skipped all the usual checkpoints, and landed on MMA's biggest stage with his foot already on the gas. By the time he strung together a few more wins, it wasn't just hype. People genuinely believed Travis Browne might be the future of the heavyweight division. And if you saw what came next, you'd probably believe it too. Every fighter has a signature move, and Browne's weapon was one that no one saw coming, literally. It wasn't a flying knee, not some slick jiu-jitsu setup. It was a freaking standing elbow. Not a Muay Thai style clinch elbow. We are talking about a reflexive, short range, you shoot for a takedown and get wrecked by a boomerang coming out of nowhere elbow. Browne turned it into a lethal counterstrike. You try to double leg him, and you're suddenly waking up on the mat wondering what truck just hit you. That move became a nightmare for wrestlers, especially heavyweights who aren't known for their head movement. His coach at the time, John Hackelman, yes, the same guy who coached Chuck Liddell, helped him refine the timing. It wasn't just a fluke, they drilled it over and over. Browne would sprawl just enough, angle off, and slam that elbow down like a guillotine blade. And the stats started to pile up. Guys weren't just getting stopped, they were getting hurt. Bad. Gabriel Gonzaga got knocked out cold with a series of those elbows. Zero setup, just a shot attempt, a pivot, and then Browne chopping him down like firewood. Now, some of those elbows sparked controversy. A few appeared to land on the back of the head. But the ref didn't step in, and the stoppage stood. Josh Barnett, same story. Former champ, grappling powerhouse, flattened in under a minute with, you guessed it, elbows from the clinch. This was a new way to punish takedown attempts, and for a while, it felt like Browne was ahead of the curve. He wasn't just knocking people out, he was changing how they approached him. Guys started hesitating before shooting, and in MMA, that split-second hesitation is death. Then came the Overeem fight. Alistair Overeem was the favorite by a mile. He had just come off a dominant win. He had the resume, kickboxing background, and that air of danger. People expected him to walk through Browne. And for the first couple of minutes, it looked like he would. Browne got smashed early. Body shots, knees, hooks. He looked cooked. Bent over, hurt, on the verge of being finished. Then, something changed. While Overeem was teeing off, Browne launched a front kick straight up the middle, right into the solar plexus. It wasn't a flashy Anderson Silva kick, it was just raw, violent, and perfectly timed. Overeem folded like a camping chair. What followed was savage. Browne rushed in, launched those trademark elbows, and knocked out one of the most dangerous men in the division. The crowd exploded, Dana White lost his mind, and Rogan screamed like someone set his shoes on fire. It was the biggest moment of Browne's career. That win wasn't just impressive, it was defining. It showed everyone that Travis Browne could take damage, reset, and still end the fight in a flash. Suddenly, Browne was more than just an athletic freak. He was a finisher, a problem, a potential title contender who could take out legends. Next came Josh Barnett, then Gonzaga, each fight adding fuel to the fire. The UFC started leaning in. They featured him more. The rankings moved. Browne climbed into the top 5. Analysts were calling him the next-gen heavyweight. By the time he racked up that 3-fight win streak, fans were already looking ahead. Could this guy be the one to finally dethrone Kane? Was this the era of Hapa? He cracked the top 3. The title eliminator was booked. Fabricio Werdum fight was set. The promotion was in full swing. UFC's marketing machine cranked out hype packages, interviews, promo spots, even the betting odds were tight. For the first time, Travis Browne wasn't just promising. He was within striking distance of the belt. But as we all know, the higher the climb, the harder the fall. And what came next? It flipped everything on its head. Travis Browne versus Fabricio Werdum was the biggest opportunity of his career. A title shot was on the line. Everything he had worked for, all the momentum, all the highlight reel knockouts came down to that night. He started well. Early on, Browne landed clean. He had the range, and he looked sharp. But Werdum adjusted, and once he did, the gap between raw athleticism and technical mastery was exposed. Werdum picked him apart. Leg kicks, jabs, level changes. Browne started to fade by the second round. By the third, he looked stuck. His timing was off, his movement slowed. He was reacting, not initiating. Verdum didn't just win, he dismantled him. Browne left the cage battered, not just physically but visibly frustrated. The aura was cracked. Still, he bounced back with a win over Brendan Schaub, but even that left fans uneasy as the stoppage felt early. Schaub protested, the crowd booed, commentators were divided. Some saw Browne controlling the fight, others thought the ref pulled the plug too soon. Dana White defended the win, but the excitement was gone. The crispness, the urgency, it just wasn't there. Then came the coaching switch. This was the moment that raised some eyebrows. Browne left Jackson Wink MMA, the same camp that helped him rise, and joined Glendale Fighting Club. Yes, the same club run by Edmond Tarverdian, the same coach that most fans associated with Ronda Rousey's crash landing. It didn't take long for people to question the move. The timing looked off. Browne was already facing tougher competition, and now he was changing his entire training system. It felt risky, maybe even reckless. His style changed, but not for the better. Gone was the fluid movement, the confident striking. He looked slower, more predictable. He wasn't improvising anymore. He was forcing combinations that didn't fit. The relationship with Rousey only magnified the scrutiny. The headline shifted from future champ to Ronda's boyfriend. Suddenly, Browne wasn't being covered for his fights. He was being talked about for TMZ drama, engagement rumors, paparazzi shots, coaching loyalty. He stopped being a contender and became a storyline. And in the fight game, that is dangerous, because once you become more interesting outside of the cage than inside it, you've already started to slip. The meme sealed it. After Derek Lewis knocked out Browne, he grabbed the mic and said, "Where Ronda Rousey's fine ass at?"
You know, what Ronda Rousey fine ass at?
And it went viral. Browne wasn't just losing fights, he was getting clowned on live TV. By then, the internet had turned him into a punchline. After switching camps, Browne's performances went downhill. Fast. The fight against Andrei Arlovsky was supposed to be a war. Two heavy hitters, both ex-contenders. Instead, Arlovsky turned it into a one-man show. He lit Browne up. Crisp boxing, sharp angles. Browne had no answers. For the first time in his UFC run, he got knocked out standing. The durability that everyone trusted, gone. Then came Cain Velasquez. If Arlovsky exposed the holes, Cain drove a truck through them. He smothered Browne with pressure, outworked him, outwrestled him, outlasted him. It wasn't a fight, it was survival. Between rounds, the camera caught Edmond shouting vague advice. "You're doing great," he said, while Browne sat there battered and bleeding. Many viewed this as something that did not make sense. No urgency, no adjustments, no real coaching, just blind encouragement. Commentators questioned what the corner was watching. Viewers saw a man breaking down. His team acted like he was winning. The beating got so bad, fans online and even fighters begged for the towel, but it never came. The corner left him in to absorb more punishment round after round. There was no comeback moment, no surprise elbow, just a man stuck in reverse, trying to breathe between barrages. His body slowed, his reactions dulled, his confidence drained. From there, it spiraled. The media stopped talking about his fights. They started talking about his wedding date. Every Rousey headline dragged Browne in, not for training updates, but for gossip. Fighters deal with distractions. Browne was buried in them. The noise never stopped. When he came back to the cage, it didn't even feel like it mattered to him anymore, and the results backed that up. In the Verdum rematch, he got picked apart again, this time with less resistance. Against Derek Lewis, the result was worse.
And one of the most promising fighters in the UFC's heavyweight division. But he has had some downs. Travis Browne understands that his back is up against the wall.
Lewis ate the early shots, then shattered him with uppercuts. Browne's legs turned to jelly. Once known for his killer instinct, now he looked like he was running on memory. His final UFC fight was against Alexei Olenek, and that was the final nail. Browne started strong, again. Then came the clinch, the squeeze, and seconds later he was tapping to a submission from a man 15 years older. The performance wasn't just flat, it was lifeless. By then, Browne was on a 4-fight skid. Each loss looked worse than the last. No aggression, no spark, no plan, just a man getting left behind. The UFC didn't cut him, they just let him fade. Dana White said,
This is one of those sports, you never know. One minute you're absolutely unbeatable and unstoppable, and the next minute you can't win a fight.
Do you think that he'll stick around?
I think that Travis should retire.
And retire he did. After the Olenek fight, Travis Browne did not hang around. Most fighters linger, they try commentary, launch podcasts, open gyms. Browne did none of that. His name stopped trending. Fans asked questions, but no answers came. He didn't just step away from fighting, he stepped away from the spotlight. He married Ronda Rousey. They moved to a ranch, started raising livestock, and built a life that had nothing to do with punch stats or rankings. While other ex-UFC fighters were chasing business ventures or clout, Browne chose privacy, and the MMA world moved on as well. New prospects came in, old legends kept fighting. The heavyweight division never paused. Browne's highlight reels stopped playing during pay-per-view broadcasts. Even UFC's social media stopped mentioning him. The search traffic dried up. His name disappeared from discussion threads, podcasts, even trivia games. It was almost like he had never been there. In a sport that glorifies chaos and comebacks, Browne did the rarest thing possible. He left, and he stayed gone. Travis Browne left the UFC with a pro record of 18 wins, 7 losses, and 1 draw. Inside the UFC octagon, he had 9 wins, 7 by knockout. He had picked up 4 knockout of the night bonuses, 2 fight of the night bonuses, a submission of the night bonus, and at one point cracked the top 3 in the world. He beat legends, Overeem, Barnett, Gonzaga, Struve, and he did it with tools that few heavyweights had. Elbows that redefined takedown defense, movement that broke the mold. But all of that sits next to one unavoidable fact. He never fought for a title. Not once. Physically, he had the edge, but wear and tear added up. Big men don't age well in this sport, and Browne's decline came fast. The fights got longer, but his reflexes didn't. You can see it in the tape. He wasn't absorbing punishment the same way. His footwork slowed. The wild entries vanished. The danger that once defined him faded. He took damage. He lost momentum. And when the instincts dulled, he didn't adjust. He stuck with a game that no longer suited him. But what if he never left Jackson Wink? What if the Verdum fight went differently? What if he had stayed focused? Maybe none of that matters, because he made the calls, he chose his coaches, he took the fights, and the results speak for themselves. He was good, very good, but not great. Still, he added something to the heavyweight game. Those standing elbows forced fighters to rethink their entries. That alone is a mark that most cannot claim. He didn't get gold, but he got remembered for a little while. Now, he lives away from the cage, far from the noise. No retirement tours, no dramatic exits, just peace. And maybe that's the real win, walking away before the sport strips you down completely. But still the question lingers. What if he had stayed with Jackson Wink? What if he never met Edmund? What if he got that title shot? Well, we'll never know. But maybe, just maybe, we haven't seen the last of Travis Browne.